Hi everybody, welcome back to Tea at the Ritz. It's Tuesday. It's a beautiful day here today. It's hot and sunny, so all that terrible grey skies and rain has gone away. Actually quite glad about some of that rain for the garden. It certainly needed it. But we're back into high temperatures and warm sunshine. I hope you are, wherever you happen to be, having the same kind of weather as this, because it's absolutely glorious. And we gather together here again for another tea time at the Ritz. It was Father's Day on Sunday, and I thought that I'd do a contemplation of how fatherhood has changed quite radically, I feel anyway, from the time when I was fathered just after the war to the current day, and also to consider some of the impact that this pandemic has had on the role and nature of fathers, given that quite a lot of them have moved their working place into the home just at the time when their children are also not at school, and some interesting observations about that. So, as most of you know, I think I was born in 1947, a couple of years after the war ended, and my dad had been away for 6 years, so he was 24 when war broke out, and he was 30 odd when it all finished. And I suppose you could say that took away his young adulthood. It certainly was a major dislocation in both the life of my mother and my father. And I think for that generation anyway, everything was referenced against the war. I don't know whether you remember when you were a child, your parents saying things like, oh, that was before the war, or oh, that was just after the war or during the war. So it was a very major, it had a major impact. And I think it did have a massive impact on my dad. When he came home, like a lot of men of his generation, he put a lid on the box that was the war in the sense of his experiences, and never talked about it ever again, really. Rarely mentioned any of the things that had actually happened. And I feel that he also put quite a big lid on his emotions, and maybe that was his way of coping, I don't know, but it obviously had an impact on the way that he fathered us. How did he father us? Well, I think he saw himself very much as the provider, the person who not only grew the food because he was a passionate gardener, but the person who went out to work to put food on the table. He was the breadwinner, and that was what he was there to do. So when it came to us as children, he did not see himself having any particular role in our upbringing or really anything that we were up to. So that was very much my mother's preserve, and it meant that he was somewhat distant from us. He didn't participate in any real way, shape or form in our childhood, in any of our play. I mean, he would never have dreamt of sitting down and playing cards with us or anything like that. Now, some of you, and I've seen lovely photographs of your beloved dads on Super Troopers, and you've been remembering and paying tribute to them over the weekend. Maybe we're not like that. Maybe I'm tarring a whole generation with the same brush against my experience of fatherhood, but certainly my own dad was not somebody who would come out and be messing around with us, as I said, in any form of play, nor did he interest himself over much in any aspect of my life. And it was just as though he had considered that was not his role, that it was the role of my mum, who fortunately was a kind and generous and very loving mother. It was her responsibility to take care of us in every way, really. When she died in 1989, and there was about 6 years between her death and when he passed away, it was very, very difficult for me because I would go and visit him, but there was very little in the way of a relationship there that we could explore. So I found conversation with him very difficult. He was very much a man's man, and I don't really think he was terribly interested in me or anything that I did in my life, which sounds incredibly sad, but I do think that it was how he saw fatherhood, that he was there to provide, and all the messy stuff, you know, the emotional relationships and all that kind of thing was very much left to my mum. Now, the second experience that I had with a fatherhood was in the 1970s, in the sense that I was then married and I became a mother myself to two girls, and my husband was therefore became a father. Now, he was very, very different from my own dad. He was there at the birth of both of the children and he seemed to really enjoy and love their company. So he became a very involved and very active dad, was very happy to take them out on his own. He'd take them swimming and he would take them off for the day. In the 1980s, I did a degree as a mature student, and I often needed to do college work at the weekends. And he was fantastic, you know, would always volunteer to take the kids out. And the important thing about that was that he did seem to really, really enjoy being with them. When we got divorced, again, he went to great pains, even though he was living abroad and actually still lives abroad. He lives in Madrid. He has, throughout the 30 years or so that we've been divorced, managed to stay very close to both girls and keep in close contact with them, and have a very active and very loving and a very important relationship in their lives. So he's been an extremely good dad. However, I would say that when it came to the demarcation between work and home, he prioritised work a lot of the time. And I can remember one famous occasion, which has gone down in our family history, when I had been working on my degree and I'd finished it, and I'd managed to get myself I'd got myself an interview with a management training consultancy, and I was really fired up about this. This was my opportunity to have the job of my dreams, really. I knew it was something that I would love to do. And in order to be accepted by this consultancy, I had to do a series of, it was like an extended training course, really. Anyway, I sorted out all my childcare arrangements, got really, really excited about it. And on the Sunday before I was due to go on the Monday, my younger daughter came down with a very nasty bug. She had a temperature. She was really not very well at all. So that threw everything up in the air. So at lunchtime on the Sunday, we're sitting there having our traditional family Sunday roast, when I said to my husband, I have this problem now in the morning with Susie not being very well. I've got to leave here at 7 o'clock in the morning. So instead of going round to the neighbours, I'm going to have to get somebody to come in and look after her, which I can probably do from about 9 o'clock. Would it be possible, perhaps, for you to stay home until about 9, when I can get somebody to come round, and I can then leave at 7 o'clock? And my then husband put his knife and fork down and looked at me and said, "Tricia, let's get something straight here. If you think that you're going back to work or going to work is in any way, shape or form going to affect my life and my work, then I'm afraid you're wrong. The children are your responsibility, and you are going to need to take care of the childcare arrangements." It's like, I was absolutely furious. I can't tell you how angry I was, but also very determined. So I found a student who was on holiday to come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and both my then husband and I went off to our respective places of work on time at 7 o'clock. So I suppose my ex-husband was a traditional father, in the sense that he very definitely prioritised his work and saw it as his role to go out to work and provide for us. But at the same time, when he was at home, he was a very active and interested and engaged dad with the children, which was absolutely brilliant. And now I come to my own sons-in-law. So as the years have rolled by, things have moved on apace, I feel. So my sons-in-law were obviously, both very, very much involved in the births of all their children. And they have subsequently played an incredibly important role, and they are, as I said, they are very, very involved and active, and within the family, I would say that they share pretty much 50-50 the responsibilities for the children when they are at home. And obviously a lot of the time they're not at home, but then the children are at school and they're at work. But it is fantastic to see the degree to which they as dads are get such delight. I think that's what pleases me so much. They get so much delight in being with their children and playing with them, taking them out, and just really, really enjoying their company, which I think is absolutely delightful. I really do. And then we have what's happened with this pandemic and the effect that it's having on families, that dads are no longer going out to work. Quite a lot of them are working from home, and what impact that's had. And this sparked something that I really enjoyed this morning. I read this, it's in the Saturday Times, and it's the Times science correspondent who's called Tom Whipple. He's obviously a journalist, and he has written for Father's Day about having children. He had children, I think, quite late in his 40s, and he's now got 3 young sons. And I just think this is lovely, and I think it's quite a good illustration of some of the major shifts that have been going on. So I'm going to read out to you the first part of his article. So, the kitchen was everything I could have hoped to see on a Zoom call with a successful executive. Brushed aluminium, swishy cupboards, a vast marble island of the kind that would not look out of place on a BBC miniseries. But then, into shot, ruining the adult sleekness, there roamed a noisy child, carrying a very large papier-mâché sculpture. The executive in question, looking utterly unperturbed, turned and helped his daughter to fix something. Then he turned back to resume the call with me, leaving this interruption completely unremarked. Later that day, at my children's bedtime, the office number flashed up on my phone while I was alone with 2 of my 3 young sons. This was not the first time this has happened. Ordinarily, there was a protocol. If the children were in the bath when the office called, I would call for my wife, then run to a different floor to answer. If my children appeared to be in a position where none of their deaths was imminent, I would promise them chocolate if they stayed in that position and stayed quiet. Then I would run to a different floor. This time, boosted by my earlier experience with the executive, I took the call in the bathroom with the children splashing in the bath. And although I explained the noise to my boss, albeit not going into the full intricacies of conflict precipitated by my middle son attempting to wee on the head of my eldest, I didn't apologise for it. So there's a dad who would have once pretended, if he took a call at home, that his children didn't exist, acknowledging that they were there and asking his boss to accept that he as a dad could be taking a work call at the same time as supervising his children's bath time. Now, I can't tell you how many million miles away that experience, if you like, of Tom Whipple is from the experience that I had of being fathered. So I just see this progression of fatherhood from somebody who was fairly remote and detached, and certainly emotionally very, very remote and detached from us as children, and as I said, who would not have dreamt of really coming out and having fun with us and playing with us, to my ex-husband, who was very hands-on, but still saw that clear demarcation between work and home, and work, I have to say, was always prioritised. And then to my sons-in-law, who are much, much more relaxed, and I think have found a better balance in terms of their the relationship that they have in their lives between work and home. And then now with the pandemic, how that is pushing that change quite a long way forward. And what I hope is, because I know that women at work have found it very difficult to admit that they've got children, because they're not taken particularly seriously when they do. I certainly felt under enormous pressure to ensure that my childcare arrangements were bulletproof so that I could work full time. But now, if dads are able to behave in that way that is expressed in that article, that will change and give permission to more women to say, I too have children, and sometimes they're making demands on me, but it doesn't mean to say that I can't do my job. It doesn't mean to say that I can't be just as productive and just as effective in my role, even though I'm doing this with a background of kids. So I hope you enjoyed that, as I said, contemplation of fatherhood as I see it from in that period of time. Things have got considerably better for children and in relationship to the ways that their fathers relate to them. Although, as I said, from the things that I've seen on Super Troopers, some of you did have the most amazing dads, and perhaps they were nothing like mine. I've got a lovely poem to end on, which is called, it's about fatherhood, in fact. It's one of my favourite poems. When I was younger and had younger children, I actually copied out this poem and I stuck it on my pinboard in my kitchen as a reminder that when you're a parent, you only have your children for a brief period of time, and the whole focus of that time needs to be on helping them to become fully independent so that they can walk away from you, but doing so full of love, filled with love, the love that you've given them as young children. So it's by Cecil Day Lewis and it's called Walking Away. It is 18 years ago, almost to the day, a sunny day with leaves just turning. The touchlines new ruled, since I watched you play your first game of football, then, like a satellite wrenched from its orbit, go drifting away behind a scatter of boys. I can see you walking away from me towards the school, with the pathos of a half-fledged thing set free into a wilderness, the gait of one who finds no path where the path should be. That hesitant figure eddying away like a winged seed loosened from its parent stem has something I never quite grasped to convey about nature's give and take, the small, the scorching ordeals which fire one's irresolute clay. I have had worse partings, but none that so gnaws at my mind still. Perhaps it is roughly saying what God alone could perfectly show, how selfhood begins with a walking away and love is proved in the letting go. I just love the last two lines of that poem, and I think it is so true of what mums and dads need to give to their children, and allow that selfhood of the child to begin with the walking away, but how we as parents prove our love to our children by letting them go. So I do hope you enjoyed that, and I shall very, very much look forward to seeing you on Friday when we have our normal Tea at the Ritz, another video. And I just want to let you know that what we've decided to do with our Zoom live sessions is to move them to a Monday, so that the video of the Zoom session will go out as usual on the Tuesday. So next week we have a treat in store for you. I have an interview with the actress Annette Badlands. She's been in all sorts of things. You might remember her years ago in Bergerac, and and recently she's played a nasty character in EastEnders, in fact, but she's also, which I find very exciting, she was the voice of Hazel Woolley in The Archers. So she's had a long and very illustrious career, Annette has, and she's an absolute delight. We discovered she was one of our customers and contacted her, and she has since become one of our ambassadors. So I'm talking to her next Monday in the Zoom call. We'll send you all the details of that, and the video of it, if you can't join the Zoom call, will go out next Tuesday, so you'll still be able to enjoy it. But I shall look forward to seeing you next Friday for another Tea Time at the Ritz. So look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.